Um, so I think, is this all we're going to get tonight?
I don't know.
I got five of us. I have Dave, but I don't have audio or vision or video.
Oh, Dave, I think just audio.
Oh, okay. I don't have, has he said something? I haven't heard him yet.
Yeah, he did.
No, I'm
I'm
not
on
hearing
my phone, so in the
it.
car, so I don't have video.
Okay, now I got you. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So I guess everybody knows each other. Steve is our porta potty manager, and Carl is sitting in as a participant tonight to learn a little more about this.
Okay.
And so, Adam, let her rip. What do you got?
Okay. So let me share my screen and I can go over some material here. All right. So I mentioned in the email that day three, gosh, it's a tough one. I'm still a little bit torn about it. I got the few routes here displayed on screen. So
I'm not seeing
this.
it yet.
Oh, you can't see it yet?
Uh, Let me see. Maybe I'm messed up. Hang on a second
Yeah,
here.
I've got it.
You got it. Okay. Let's give Dan a moment to see if he can.
Uh,
Yep.
yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here.
It should just pop up. I'm not sure.
It should, but for some
Let
reason,
me let me try to stop sharing. I'll try to share again.
okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I've got it again.
You got it. Okay.
Yeah,
I,
just go ahead. I
Okay.
I have it.
Okay. So let's see. So these overlap a lot, so some of the colors are kind of behind each other. But this blue route here is last year's. This is last year's gravel route. So one of the options would be to use this green route, which is the same for the first few miles. And then right here, this was no name road. That was the one with the huge puddles in the sand and everything. So it's pretty easy to route around that. So I just kind of routed around that. That should be no problem. And then last year's route, it goes across 127, and this area here is really sandy. And so we did check that out to confirm that it's pretty sandy. So the one option would be to just do what we did last year. Me, Dave, and I did this last year. We just rode up Old 27, and the only modification to that I did is there's this Deadstream Road here.
mhm.
This is gravel, so you've got about 4 miles of gravel you can get off of Old 27 and ride about 4 miles of gravel, but then you got to get back on Old 27 and go up to the lunch stop. Okay. And that also avoids so the last year the gravel route would have taken you up to this road, which is like Houghton Lake Road or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, Lake City Road. And that one is pretty busy, and you'd have to ride like 5 or 6 miles or something on the side of that road. That wasn't ideal either. So I think this old 27 route would be a better option. It's a bummer. I mean, this is taking out like, I can't remember, 12 miles of gravel or something like that. And it's mostly just riding up Old 27 instead, which is, not ideal. But there just isn't a great gravel route that takes you north up to Houghton Lake here. So the other option I was looking at is this red one I have highlighted now. It follows more closely with the road route. So we would continue up a couple more miles and cut across here. This is all gravel. Then we would get back on common with the road route for this next few miles here. This is all common with the road route.
Mhm.
Then we would head into here into this is Roscommon State Forest area. And this section here, this east-west road is in good shape. But then as soon as you turn north, it gets pretty sandy for like 4 to 5 miles. Now we rode it once on our first day there, and it was pretty wet. The sand, like the ground was pretty wet, and it was pretty decent. We could ride it. It was like a little sandy, but it wasn't too bad. Then I was worried about that, and we came back on the last day, and it had dried up some, and it was considerably harder to ride. It was, the sand shifted around more, and I did ride through it a second time, but it's tough going. So I'm looking at that thinking, ah, man, if it's dry, it could very well be dry. And like, boy, that's pretty tough going in there, which is unfortunate. So one thing I thought about is this does meet back up with the road route right up here.
Hmm.
So one option I was thinking is, we could say, all right, let's use this route and put a big warning on the thing that like, warning, this is tough riding, it's pretty sandy, and if you want to skip it, you can just stay on the road route, go up Gladwin Road and cut across, basically up to the lunch stop. You could just stay on the road route if you preferred to avoid that sandy section. Um, but or we could just say, all right, let's just do this old 27 option instead. So I don't know. That's sort of open at the moment.
Well, I
Um,
mean, we could offer an alternative. I mean, we could warn people that there's potential for, if it's dry, there's potential for some pretty nasty sand.
right.
Advise you to go straight rather than turning, or no, actually, you would go straight.
Yeah, you'd keep going up Gladwin Road.
Keep going up Gladwin Road um, to the lunch stop, sort of right at your own risk.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's a good alternative. I mean, for someone who's like, 5 miles of sand, like that doesn't sound like something I want to do. That seems like a pretty good alternative. It's easy because we're already on a common route with the road route, and they could just stay on that route.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was thinking like I would like to speak at the rider meeting, and I can kind of give a preview of what's coming up the following day,
Sure.
and I could call this out and say, hey, this is a 75-mile day, and there's a section in here, and depending on what the weather's like, I can say, look, it's been dry, and this is pretty sandy. It's tough going in there, so if you want to skip that, just let everybody know that at the rider meeting. And then I think like it would be good if it could be called out in the map book even
Mhm.
and say like warning sand, like here's an alternate, like stick to the road route and that's the alternate.
Yeah, we can do that. We can also, I send a personalized letter to every writer. I don't write them all. I just send a big emailing to all the writers. And for people who have registered for the gravel, I can put in notes and comments in that letter specifically to people who have said they're going to ride gravel and give them a warning well in advance because that letter goes out. I produce that letter about a week before the ride starts
Uh-huh.
with instructions on various things, and I can put comments and notes in there for this. So they would
Okay.
get a notice in advance. And then I totally agree, talking at the writer meeting the night before would be really smart. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So I thought about myself, like if I was just riding this myself, what would I do? And I think I would stick with the route through the forest. It's a beautiful ride through the state forest, and there's like no car traffic out there. There might be a few ATVs or something, but it's a quiet ride through the forest. It's really nice. Just that sand. And I think if I was feeling good and I had time, I would go ahead and do that. If I was feeling like, oh, I'm running behind, I need to make up some time, or if I'm feeling tired, I would probably stick to the road. I mean, that was, if I was just riding by myself, that's what I would do. So I think it kind of makes sense to give the riders those like alternatives.
Yep.
Um, Okay, so let's go after the lunch stop over here. Last year's route included a few miles through this section. This was that's a seasonal road that is pretty sandy. It was rideable but tough going. I mean, I guess similar to the state forest kind of condition. And my routes, I kind of debated whether to keep that in or leave it out, but it does add like a mile or two, and it's already a pretty long route, and it's a tough section. So I kind of thought, and the alternative is pretty good too, because we're riding along this
Yeah.
small, this quiet road along Houghton Lake, and so I thought, all right, I'll just leave that out. So I'm following with the road route here, past Houghton Lake and Higgins Lake, and
Mhm.
then where we depart is here, just north of Higgins Lake. So we found this. This is like a state park, and we found this really nice, like crushed limestone path through this state park. Dave and I rode this, and it's really beautiful. It's a great ride, and I think this is a great addition to the route here. It adds a little bit more gravel. And then we cut across here to back to Military Road, so that's common with the road route. And then we found a gravel path here through this section. 7 Mile Road's very good. King Road is a little bit loose, but not bad. And then like this, all this section, this is good gravel, that's good gravel. And that takes you up to 4 Mile Road. And 4 Mile Road, I looked at the traffic data because there's like a website that has the official traffic data for like when they do traffic studies all over the state of Michigan. 4 Mile Road has about the same amount of traffic as Military Road. I had heard that this was a busy road, but it's about the same as Military Road, really. So I don't think this is any worse than Military. But we would cut across the highway here, and then right here we get on a paved trail. This is the Iron Bell Trail. It was recently paved, I think, maybe in the last few years. And this is a really nice dedicated bike path. I mean, I guess it's a multi-use path, but and this takes you up here and it takes you right into Grayling. This last little section, it kind of they're planning to extend it at some point further into Grayling, but right now it kind of dumps you out onto a busy road. So I thought it would be better to take this road. This is like called Industrial. This is a quiet little road up to here, then cut under the highway. There's a nice big wide shoulder there. It's not bad to cut underneath the highway. And then through these kind of neighborhoods, this is actually a designated bike route. There's signs that say it's a bike route. And then when you get over to this road, I think this is called Michigan Avenue. That one actually, it's this 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, but it also has a bike lane, which is nice. And then this takes you up to here. And then this section is gravel. That's a pretty decent gravel road. And then here, I would suggest to the riders that they should cross over Old 27 and get on the bike path here because it's a nice little bike path and it's kind of it's a high-speed road. So, I would recommend the bike path. And then that takes you right into the high school.
Is that the North Central Trail? At that trail that goes all the way from Grayling up to Inland Lakes?
No, this one is just a short trail. It's a paved trail that goes only a couple of miles, a few miles just up to the high school. Well, it does connect through this one that goes out to Hardwick Pines. There's a sign on the Iron Bell Trail. They're trying to connect this thing all the way back down through Grayling to this section of Iron Bell Trail, all the way back down to this section through the state forest. Like there's a plan to eventually connect all these together, but it's in pieces right now.
Yeah. Okay. It looks good.
Yeah. Okay. So as far as like a rest stop on this day, I noticed that the road route doesn't even really have a stop. I mean, there's a stop that's like a couple of miles in. It's really, early on. And then the next stop is the lunch stop. So there really isn't a stop for the road riders either in here,
No.
I think. And I think in one of the past years when I rode this, there was just a SAG vehicle on the side of the road and I stopped and got some water there somewhere on Gladwin Road over here. But as far as locations for a stop, there is a hiking trail parking lot in here in the middle of this kind of state forest area. I don't know if it's going to show up in here, but it's this little hiking trail has a little parking lot here. I took a photo of some information on the sign. It's like a DNR contact information. I haven't tried to contact anyone, but that's a possible option for like where to put a rest stop.
Yep.
The only other thing I really saw, because this is like forest and it's people's houses and stuff, but there's some kind of like field test area. It's like this, I think it's maybe this thing over here is like some kind of field test area. I think, again, there's some contact information I found for that. I think it might be DNR also for this one. I don't know if we could, I mean, this is a huge area. We'd want it to be like right by the entrance. And that would actually be common with the road route as well. So that would possibly serve road riders as well as gravel riders if we put something there.
Okay.
Okay. And then let's see. I think after the lunch stop, did I consider something after? Oh, after the lunch stop, there is a stop right over here by 4 Mile Road. There is a gas station right there.
Okay.
And so Dave and I did stop there and get some stuff, but yeah, that's a place. I think there's not it's not excessively long distance between the lunch stop and this gas station, and that's probably about 10 miles before the finish. So that could work as a rest stop as well.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, keeping in mind that um, we have dedicated SAG crew just for rest stops for gravel. And we
Okay.
need to identify where those people are going to park and sit.
Okay. So is that, I guess that's the thing. Like, I ran into that before. I don't know if that was planned or what, but I just ran into a SAG vehicle when I was riding the road route before, just on Gladwin Road on the side there. I don't know if someone just flagged them down and they just stopped there and then more people kept showing up, so they just stayed, or if that was planned that they're just going to stay on the side of the road, or if we could just do something like that. Like, could
Uh, we,
they?
so what we've done is we've identified, um, as a result of the work that you did in your videos, we had determined that we were going to dedicate uh, a water and nutrition wagon that would park each day at one spot and stay for like 3.5 hours as riders came through.
Oh, okay.
And and they're dedicated to the gravel people. And then we're also going to have a van with two people that will be dedicated to gravel sag. So
Okay.
they will sweep the route just like you would on the road and make
Yeah.
sure nobody's, help somebody with a flat or a breakdown or physical exhaustion or whatever, just like a regular sag. So there's
Uh-huh.
going to be 4 crew volunteers dedicated solely to the gravel route.
Okay, so the ones you said that would stay in a certain location, this would be the stops that I had identified for like day one and day two. That would be the location for those, right?
Yep,
And then the idea was we would set up porta johns there as well.
right.
Right.
Okay, so then having a stop, we kind of need more than just a place on the side of the road. We need like permission from a property owner to put porta johns there, right?
Yep. And we
Okay,
would
so that's yeah.
once we figure out a spot like that trailhead parking that you mentioned for a DNR,
Yeah.
that might be a good place to do that because then we can get in touch with the DNR. If there's a toilet there, that's great. But if there isn't, we can get in touch with the DNR and get permission to drop a porta potty there.
Yeah, there isn't a toilet there. We were just there. We didn't see one.
Okay.
So, okay. Um, so let's look at day 4 then. And all right. So I've got the road route, the original gravel route, and the new gravel route laid out here. They're all common up to Frederick. So last year's gravel route went through Frederick and up north here on this road. This road is okay for a few miles, and then it gets real sandy for a few miles. I rode all the way through it, but it's tough going for a few miles there. So what I did is modified it to stay on Old 27 for a little longer and then cut in, because after this turn, it's good. The gravel's good up here. And then that takes you up to here. This is Manslona Road. Anyway, then there's a section that's paved. It's the same as last year's gravel route up to here. Okay, so this road is Coach Road. There's it gets pretty tough going and it gets real rustic up here. And then we ran into a spot where it was just a bunch of trees down over the path and you couldn't get through. So we had to route around that. I think it looked like pretty rough going and kind of sandy even without the trees, but with the trees you can't get through. So I routed around that down Martindale up to Pike School over to Huffman. And some portions of this are gravel, and we looked at all the gravel and confirmed it's okay. And then we would come up here and rejoin with last year's gravel route. So that was one change. We got the ice cream place, Whippy Dip, over here. So that's a stop along the way. And then let's see, last year's route took this. So this section here, this line is like some kind of pipeline trail, and it's very sandy. We didn't get very far down that, and we were like, nah, this is just sand. We can't really get through here. So I came across South Shire and up here, and then onto this is a Straits Highway. It's not the best, but it's about a mile stretch. It's downhill on Straits Highway and then get back off over here to avoid this. This is real sandy. So,
Okay.
okay. And then we are back on the same route as the last year's gravel route. This section is good. There's some gravel in there that's good. And then into Wolverine, following the same trail, same. This section is good, so I kept that. But then last year's route passed over this rail trail and went over this way. Once you get past Straits Highway, this just becomes total sand, like unrideable sand. So I said, all right, well, that's easy. Just stay on the North Central State Trail here and come around the same as the trail route. As far as stops on this day, we do have the Whippy Dip. That's like, I don't know, 40 miles in or something like that. So we probably need one stop before that. I think, yeah, up through Frederick. I think there might, I don't know if there's something in Frederick, but it's not very far into the route. I think there is something in Frederick, but it's not very far into the route. And then we would get up to, I think there was some stuff. There were a few things in here that were like between 18 to 20 miles in. I haven't tried to contact anyone. Oh, this is I think not this is not the Google Map, so it doesn't have as many points of interest that show up in here. But there's a few things. There's like a Hayes Township Hall in here somewhere, and there's a couple of like pins on the Google Map for like some family farm or something. There's like a few different places I saw that like, okay, those might be options. They might be willing to let us set up there. So I think we have some options. And if we had that one stop, then we have the Whippy Dip. And then after that, I think we're close enough that we can make it without needing any additional stops. Okay. So I think that's about it for day 4. And I think that route I think it's pretty much finalized. I don't see any reason to change that one any further. I think it's pretty solid.
Okay.
And then we go to day 5. Okay. I rode the short gravel route last year and it was good. I don't think there's any need to change it. So, and the long gravel route is the same for the first, I don't know, 15 or 20 miles or something until you get north of Pellston. I did take a look at another route that would take us across Tower Road over here. I believe that's Tower Road. Yeah. But we drove through it and it looked okay at first, but the further along you got, the worse it got, and it got real sandy. So we decided, nah, that's not going to work. So I'm sticking closer to the original gravel route. But the original gravel route was this section here, and this road, I think it's called Center Road, that had some trees down over it, not passable. Looked like they had cleared it up to a certain point, and then there was a tree trunk that was like 3 feet in diameter that was down over the road, and they didn't clear any further than that. So anyway, it's pretty easy to route around it, though. You just go, this way up to Canby. And let's see, the route last year took this road, something, and Erebus or something like that. We found that this road was pretty sandy. Unfortunately, that was not a real good road. So my route, I just stuck to the pavement here. But then after I got back home, I thought, well, what about going down this way and up one of these roads or something? You could hit a little more gravel and stay on these like small minor roads. But we didn't check these out, so I don't know what the condition is exactly. And through Cross Village, there's actually a gravel road over here. So there's a store there. We can stop, that'll be a rest stop. And then there's actually a little gravel road here that we can utilize. And then exiting Cross Village, there's this road, this called Y Camp Road. This is actually really nice. It's funny because this one was totally sandy and we couldn't ride it. And then right up here, it's a much better road, even though I don't think there's any houses out there. I don't know. This one is in good shape though. And it's a real nice ride, like through the forest and a little bit of a view of the lake and everything. So that was a real fun ride. So I'm excited to put that on the route. And then we link back up with last year's gravel route. Right up through here, there's a section, I don't have the video handy, but there's a section where there's a descent in there. And at one time, it's clear that the road was really, really muddy and it was a steep, depending on which way you're going, it's a steep uphill, and there was deep ruts in it where cars or trucks or whatever trying to get up that hill had probably spun their tires and dug out big deep ruts. I think it's fine, you can go down it, but caution is warranted on that descent. That like don't go flying through that descent. So that's a good thing to mention. I think in the rider meeting, like I can mention that, like, watch out for those ruts. It's pretty treacherous. Don't go flying down because it's like a probably 10% gradient or something like that. So you can pick up some speed if you're, if you think it's fine, but watch out for those ruts because they're, you can get stuck in a rut and then you can't steer very well.
Hey, Adam,
So
I have a
anyway,
question.
yeah.
How much of these roads can a SAG vehicle get down?
I think a SAG vehicle can get down pretty much any of them, except for, I mean, there's some like dedicated bike trails and stuff like on day 3, there's through the state forest, like you can't drive a car through there.
What about
And
the
then,
route you were just talking about with the ruts and stuff? Is that going to be passable on
so Ron did drive it.
Okay.
Uh, it when we were there, it wasn't muddy. It had been muddy probably in the spring or over the winter. It must have been pretty muddy. If we got a big rainstorm or something, possibly that could be a real mud pit. I don't know.
Yeah, we
You know,
just
you might,
may want to give some SAG routes around, the SAGs are going to need some kind of a route that they can stay on the road for these trails, bike trails and stuff like that.
yeah,
So they
okay.
don't get lost trying to, so they'll need a road route for the SAGs to get through on these spots where you're on the trail.
That's right.
We're
Okay.
used to that because we use trails on all the routes. So all the Delmac routes have trails, and the sides are a word effect. You can't drive a car on a bike trail. They have to use the roads, and if a rider is on the trail, um, they have to get to like a road crossing or a driveway crossing or something, and then the side to pick them up. So this
Yeah.
is no different than every other Delmac route.
So I think like looking back at this one, like I think, yeah, a vehicle could drive all of this. We drove through this section. I mean, it's a bit sandy, but the car can handle it no problem. I mean, you might go slow because it's a little bumpy and whatever, but yeah, you can drive through all of this. I think the only part you won't be able to drive is, like I said, the dedicated bike trail. So over here, just north of Higgins Lake, from right there, that becomes a bike trail. And then through this state park, you can't drive on that. That's a bike trail.
So you just
But
stay on Old 27. Okay.
yeah, you can hop on Old 27 and go either way. Yeah, that's a pretty easy way to get through.
Okay.
And then, yeah, all these roads up here, those are all, there's houses out there and stuff. Those are drivable roads. And then this section of the Iron Bell Trail, you can't drive for like probably 3-4 miles on this section. It's kind of, you can't really see it that well, but there's a road here that goes in a little ways before it, I don't know exactly where it dead ends, somewhere over here. So yeah, how does the SAG get around that? Oh, well, okay, so there's an entrance ramp to the highway right here, but the exit is where it's, oh, that looks like exit only on the southbound side, is that right? Yeah, looks like there's no exit on the northbound side there. So
Well,
how would a SAG vehicle get around this? I guess down to military?
yeah, we're pretty practiced at if we have a problem on a section like that, I think we can reach them. Um, and one of the things I'm thinking about is if the SAG vehicles might want to carry a gravel bike on their vehicle.
Okay.
And if somebody needed a rescue, we could a rider could run down the trail and get them or find out
Yeah.
what's going on.
Oh, it looks like there is an exit right here. So if you were at 4 Mile and you wanted to get to the other end of the bike trail, you could get on the highway, it looks like, and then exit right there, and then I'll take you right out here, and then you can, yeah, so it doesn't look too hard to get around, but you can only really drive to one end or the other. So there's just like a few miles in here that you can't really drive.
Okay.
There's you can see some other unpaved roads in here, but I know for sure, like this one that runs parallel is real sandy. You might get a car stuck in that. I'm not even sure. So I would stick to the pavement. Okay, so those are the bike trails. I'm thinking, day 4, I don't think, well, it has sections of the rail trail, but that's existing part of the route.
Right.
So
Well,
there's nothing new there.
and the way we advertise this is that people can make their selection. Because when you're on the east route, you can ride gravel, trail, or road. It's your choice. And that's we typically tell the rider, if you look ahead and you don't like what you see, switch to the road or switch to the
Yeah,
trail. Uh,
yeah,
so I think we got lots of flexibility for riders in
hmm
terms of getting around conditions that may be tough.
yeah, yeah. Okay, one thing I didn't talk about is rest stops on day 5. I don't think there's a need for any, because we've got a stop. There's a like a liquor store or something in Allenson. There's a stop in Pellston. Um, there's a stop at Cross Village,
Yeah.
and then there's a stop. Where is it? There's a store over here somewhere, Cecil Bay.
Yep.
So yeah, I think there's enough stops on both the short and the long gravel route that we don't need to add anything additional.
So did you meet up with Ron Tripp?
Yes, I did.
Good.
Yeah, yeah, we chatted for a little while. I thought he might want to come for a ride, but he said his bikes had, they had just been on the back of the car for a cross country trip and they were filthy and whatever. So he didn't ride with us, but we did meet up and chat with him. Yeah.
Good.
And he did help us out. He told us about that rutted road. I wasn't sure if we were going to have time to get to all the, everything in day 5, but we did end up having time to get over there. So, and I'm glad we saw it in person because yeah, it was interesting to see. And we rode down it and everything and got some video of it and everything. So I've got about 2 hours worth of footage that I shot during this whole trip, and I'm gonna make a video edit. I'm gonna make one for YouTube. Dan, you said you wanted one for like the Facebook page or something, like a short edit.
Yep. Like a short
Okay.
edit, just sort of you know, uh, if you can edit it down to 3 to 5 minutes
Okay.
or like a Facebook reel
Yeah.
that would just say, we're exploring this. Here's this great stuff, blah, blah, blah. You know what to do. You're good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. I'll make a longer edit just for my YouTube page.
Oh, yeah.
And I did just for like a reference, I just did like an uncut, like 2 hour edit, and I'm gonna upload this to YouTube. At the moment, it's just gonna be an unlisted video, but just for future reference, and I want to be able to look back at this and be like, what did this road look like, or what did that road look like, and like have that reference info in there. So
That's perfect.
yeah.
So, day 1 and 2, I assume there's really nothing we have to worry about with day 1 and 2. It's pretty straightforward, right?
Day 1 and 2 were in good shape. The only thing, let me see. The only thing I wanted to mention, day 1. Okay, so I made an edit. I actually went slightly off route intentionally on day 1. So day 1 takes you up Chandler Road here up to Clark, I believe.
Yeah.
And Chandler Road, I kind of felt like there's like big weeds growing up and sticking out into the shoulder and blocking the shoulder. You have to ride on the road and there's high speed traffic there. And I looked at the map last year and I was like, I don't want to do that. So I decided, okay, there's a little bike path here. So I turned off Abbott Road and got on this bike path, and then I went up to whatever this road is. I think the speed limit's like 35 on this road, and I think there's a bike lane, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
And then on this road, I think it might be like a 45, but a relatively quiet road. And then I meet back up with the paved. Actually, I think it's even further. I think I meet back up with the paved route, maybe on Clark Road or something.
Yeah.
But I felt like these were quieter back roads and stuff. But actually, a very short section of this bike trail turned out to be unpaved, which is fine if for me. But anyway, like I personally prefer that route. But one thing I did run into is there was one traffic light where it's on a sensor and you can't trigger it with a bike, so it was just perpetually red. So I sat there for a couple of minutes and then I was like, oh, it's one of these. so I had to just run the red light.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I'll probably take this route again next year. I don't know. I thought it was a little tricky to make a left turn on Abbott Road. What I ended up doing is stopping on the right side of the road and waiting for traffic to clear and then crossing over. So like, but maybe crossing at a light or something might be easier because you could take Abbott Road. I think where
So
would you go?
at Abbott Road Park, so that trail is called the Northern Tier Trail,
Uh-huh.
and you can get on it there just south of Lake Lansing Road. Um, and you can actually ride that trail all the way up to State Road. That trail is
Oh, okay.
State Road.
Yeah, okay. I think I don't remember. I looked at this like a year ago, but I think maybe I saw that like, well, this is a 35 speed limit and there's a bike lane, so let me just hop on this road, I think is maybe what I was thinking when I made this.
Yeah, that's Coleman Road.
Okay. And I don't know, I don't remember which road I was on that had that light, the traffic light that was on a sensor. It might
It's
have been,
it's
yeah.
Coleman and whatever the next road to the where the 8 shows up. State Road and Wood Street.
State
Wood
and
Road.
Wood. Oh, here?
Yeah.
I thought it was a spot where I was going straight through, but this might be that spot. Well, anyway, yeah, I thought about like, you know, is it I'm sure there's a lot of considerations that go into modifying the route. Like, okay, that left turn was not that easy to do. Maybe if you were to turn at like Lake Lansing Road or something. But then again, okay, going up this way, part of this is unpaved, so you wouldn't want the road riders to go in, on an unpaved section of the path.
Lake Lansing Road is a main arterial east and west. It's very busy, and there's no bike lane.
Which road?
Lake Lansing Road.
Oh, Lake Lansing. Oh, okay, okay.
Mhm.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe this option would be good for gravel riders. We could say, well, there's a little section of unpaved trail here, but that's fine if you're on the, if you're gonna ride gravel.
Yeah. Well, I don't really
Uh,
have a problem with them being on pavement because it's unrealistic to expect in the metro area that you're going to be able to um,
Yeah.
be on gravel, right?
no, I mean, what I'm saying is you might not want this route for, well, you wouldn't want to send the road riders through this route, but the gravel riders, it would be okay.
Okay. Well, Dave will figure that out, Dave Mansfield, on the because we're pretty good at getting out of town, out of East Lansing. So I
Yeah.
think these are all great suggestions. I like it.
Okay. Yeah, but other than that, day 1 and 2 were the gravel was all great, no problems there. So I don't think there's any need to change that. And then I identified rest stops for day 1 and 2 already and got permission from some property owners for those. Oh, did you ever send the insurance information to the that woman from
Yes.
some township hall? You did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Um, so this is fantastic. Do you have more to report, or are you pretty much that it?
I think that's about it. Yeah.
So what we need to do is we've got this recording of this meeting, which will be helpful. We can all review. But then um, if you can just do a quick write up and say, specifically, here's where we need to make this change. Here's where we should put a rest stop. Here's where we need a porta potty. And if we need property permissions, let me know who those are, and I'll get the permission from the property owners or try to get it.
Okay.
So that we have kind of a log of what the changes are.
Okay.
And that Dave and I have been talking about the timeline for the map printing. We've still got time, but we're trying to get this wrapped up pretty quickly because we
Okay.
always get nervous about the maps getting finished in time because it's a big print job.
Mhm.
But this looks great. This
Mhm.
looks fantastic. You guys, I hope you had some fun doing it.
We had a blast. I really enjoyed it, and we learned a ton. I mean, I looked and looked and looked at these maps, and like, you know, I could only do so much with the information that was online, but I learned so much by going there and riding the roads. So it was definitely a worthwhile trip, very productive.
Great, great. Well, send me an expense report.
Oh yes, I've been so focused on the footage and renaming everything and organizing stuff and making the routes that I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Whatever it comes, I'll take care of it. Um, all right. Well, Dave Mansfield, I know you're not able to see this, but I'll post this video and it'll be a private video on our YouTube channel, and I'll provide the link to the people interested so we can go back and look at it. Um, and yeah, this is great. Adam, amazing job.
Great, thank you.
I love it. And Steve will be wrangling the porta potties.
Yeah, once we get the final route plans, then I'll start adding it to the spreadsheet.
Yep. To wrangle the
Yeah.
porta potties.
Yeah, Adam, can you send me the final routes that you decide on, ASAP?
Oh yeah.
And if you can send, I know you use Ride with GPS a lot. If you have Ride with GPS links, send those to me. That's
Yeah.
great. If not, I can create Ride with GPS.
Yeah, I have ride with GPS routes. I'll send those.
Okay.
And where you had expressed an option, like here's option 1, 2, 3. I'm comfortable with you just kind of making a solid recommendation for which one you think is the right one to do. Uh, we don't need to get in a lot of paralysis about it. If you think that's the right one based on your judgment and you guys looking at it in person, just pick it and then share the GPS files with Dave, and that'll make his life easier too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll work on wrapping up those files and make sure everything is finalized and then send you the links for the final routes.
Perfect. I think we're going to have a wonderful gravel route this year.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's a good improvement. It was a good route, you know, the original one, but you can only do, you know, so much without going there and riding it. And actually, what we found also, as I mentioned earlier, was we rode the sandy section when it was wet and it wasn't too bad. And then I came back a few days later when it was dry and it was considerably worse. So the conditions can change, you know, in a matter of days. So like you might have ridden it once, like Mitch said that he rode this No Name road before and it was good. And then we went there, it wasn't so good. So like, you know, but I think most of the roads are, you know, they're solid constructed roads. The roads that we found, that the roads that have houses on them, those ones are solid. They're not sand. It's the ones that are going through these kind of forest areas that can be iffy.
Yeah.
So I think most of the roads, the gravel roads now, are pretty solid, sturdy roads. There's just a few that are a bit, you know, just a couple that are a bit sandy, like that one through the state forest area. I wish there was a better way through there, but there's just like there's no gravel that takes you up to Houghton Lake. That's good gravel, really.
Well, and that's fine. I mean, those of us who ride bikes out in the weather are used to things going sideways and having to adjust. So I think it'll be fine. And we'll just give people the warnings as you suggest. Talk about it at the rider meetings, and I'll put it in the information we send to riders, and I think we'll be good.
Okay, very good.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions or anything?
Well done. Well done.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'll give you back the rest of your evening. Here we go.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Hey, have a good one.
All righty.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.